This is the final lecture series of mini lectures for POLS 230, and it will consist of a brief review of chapters 14 through 16. Chapter 14, Crime and Punishment. Much of the American system of justice is rooted in British tradition. The United States incarcerates a much larger proportion of its population than do other rich nations. There is considerable evidence that people of color are targeted, arrested, and incarcerated in disproportionate amounts. Official and unofficial videos of police encounters with the public have raised new questions about police use of excessive force. Some police forces have been accused of using arrests as a means of collecting revenues rather than improving public safety. Some conservatives worry that law enforcement officers are hamstringing themselves because of the so-called Ferguson effect. After a long decline, homicide and crime rates have risen in some cities, such as Chicago. Drug addiction and violent crimes led to an enormous prison building boom in recent decades. Now, many states are looking to change their criminal justice systems in order to help cut down on recidivism. Application of the death penalty has declined sharply in recent years. Chapter 15, Health and Welfare. The Affordable Care Act had profound effects on the nation's healthcare system. It remains politically controversial, and parts of it are bound to be repealed under the Trump administration. Although the Affordable Care Act is mostly funded by the federal government, states retain considerable authority in terms of expanding Medicaid coverage and running health insurance exchanges through which private subsidies flow. Prior to the 20th century, providing for health and welfare was largely left to local governments. States now spend a sizable portion of their budgets on health care, not just through Medicaid, but also in providing health care for prisoners and government employees. During the 1990s, Congress changed the old federal law, letting states design programs that required recipients to work. Caseloads subsequently dropped dramatically. Also during the 1990s, a presidential push toward universal health coverage failed abysmally, but Congress did create a new program known as CHIP to insure children. States have enacted hundreds of restrictions on abortion during the decade, but federal courts have struck down many of the most significant ones. States also differ on other issues where social mores intersect with health, such as guns and sex education. As the nation's population ages, costs for long-term care are increasing rapidly. State and local governments have traditionally played a role in protecting and promoting public health, seeking to stop the spread of epidemics. In recent years, the definition of public health has been broadened beyond infectious diseases to address matters such as obesity, even as public health funding has begun shrinking. The final chapter, Environment and Climate Change. Climate change and environmental issues in general have become highly polarized, with Republicans tending to dismiss the concerns expressed by many Democrats. Although there are political arguments about climate change, the scientific consensus is clear. Major entities such as the Pentagon and states and cities are trying to come up with ways to cope with the effects of climate change. States have sought various ways to limit greenhouse gases, from seeking stricter fuel standards to cars limiting emissions from power plants. Many states and some cities have passed laws requiring utilities to obtain a percentage of their power from renewable sources. However, in some states, conservatives are pushing back against these requirements. The coal industry is hurting, with environmentalists fighting to block the opening of new power plants fueled by coal and to close existing ones. The rise of natural gas production is also contributing to coal industry losses. Even with the decline in the price of oil, states such as North Dakota, Ohio, and Pennsylvania have enjoyed a boom from fracking. Many state and local governments have adopted policies that seek to limit sprawl and to create more density, in part to cut down on fuel usage. Scientists continue to find alarming evidence of the effects of climate change, including a sea level rise. Although often described as one of the greatest long-term challenges facing the nation and the world, climate change does not elicit nearly as much concern among the public as do other issues, such as the economy.